But our country can't handle people that come into our country illegally.
What?
And they want to give them full health care benefits.
I've never heard anything like that before. That is so weird.
They want to open the wall again. Can you believe it? I can't even believe it.
What's that? Say that again?
They want to open the wall.
What?
They haven't taken away boys playing in women's sports. They haven't done that. Men playing in women's sports.
What?
It's like they don't change. They lost an election in a landslide, and they don't change.
What is going on?
God bless you, Patriots. Welcome to Patriot News Broadcasting. This is Illinois Jack reporting for the 2nd of October and the 3rd of October, 2025. God bless you, Patriots.
And the most important purchase that is going on right now is class TikTok. TikTok, number one. And I hope it goes through because it can be consequential. And the other one, what's the other one? That's most important. X. Exactly. Very good. And so we have to talk to Elon. He's not an enemy. He's a friend. We should talk to him. Now, if we can get those two things, we get a lot, and I could go on other things, but that's not the point right now. We have to fight the fight, okay? To give direction to the Jewish people, and give direction to our non-Jewish friends, or those who could be our Jewish friends. Are we going to succeed with everyone? No. Will there be a strong conflict? Yes.
Well, the concern about Israeli propaganda continues, and the concern about social media censorship continues, but today I'm more concerned about the Q post talking about Israel for last. Today I came across a really interesting article written by Praying Medic back in June of this year. And in this article, he examines what he calls Q's most controversial message that came back in March of 2018 when President Trump faced accusations of colluding with Russia during the 2016 election. The drop by Q was in response to several other posts on a different but related subject. To understand the meaning of this post, we must frame it in the proper context. On March 7th of 2018, Q and the researchers on 8chan began discussing the role played by Edward Snowden, and Anon posted the following message. In 2013, documents leaked by the former NSA contractor Edward Snowden revealed the existence of numerous surveillance programs jointly operated by the Five Eyes. The following list includes several notable examples reported in the media, and it includes Prism, Xkeyscore, Tempora, etc. Q replied, "Interesting, isn't it?" In the next post, an Anon asked about Israel and posted a screenshot from a news story about the indictment of Imran Awan. Whatever happened to this Pakistani guy who worked with the DNC, the president asked in an interview published Thursday by the New York Times. Is Israel involved? The grand jury in August returned an indictment in the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia charging Awan and his wife, Hina Alvi, With a total of 4 counts, which included federal bank fraud and conspiracy, Awan has pleaded not guilty to all charges. Whatever happened to them, Trump continued, with the 2 servers that they broke up into 1 million pieces, whatever happened to them? And Q replied, "We're saving Israel for last, for a very specific reason not mentioned a single time." Q's response could be interpreted in several ways. Some believe Israel to be the most corrupt nation of all. The Israeli intelligence agency Mossad has been blamed for many of the world's problems. Q's comment, saving Israel for last, is then taken as confirmation that Israel is the most evil nation of all, and the disclosure of their corruption is being saved for last. It's possible this is a correct interpretation, but we don't know with certainty since Q never confirmed what he meant by this statement. I'd like to propose another possibility. The mainstream media heavily criticizes Q's operation. It appears this criticism was anticipated, and Q took precautions not to allow room for justifiable criticism by the press. This is evidenced in the way the media try to connect Q to acts of violence that, in fact, have nothing to do with Q. The press have criticized Q for posting on 4chan and 8chan, websites that the media claim are hangouts for neo-Nazis and anti-Semites. The Q team would have anticipated that the media would attack them over this issue. If they avoided discussing topics related to Israel, they could minimize accusations by the media that they harbor anti-Semitic or neo-Nazi views. If Q saved discussions of Israel until the end of the operation, at that point, the media's opinions would not matter. When taken as a whole, Q's post suggests that Iran is the one nation that poses the greatest threat to our future. Q's message discussed in detail how American political figures helped Iran develop its covert nuclear weapons program. As we read in the last chapter, the goal of that program is to bring the world to the brink of nuclear war. Ironically, Q's next post mentioning Israel was about the exposure of Iran's covert nuclear weapons program. Looking at that post leading to the disclosure on April 21st of 2018, Q hinted that something big was planned for the following week. Q responded to his previous post. MOAB is an acronym for Mother of All Bombs on the clock, suggested a major event was imminent. 3 days later, he met with German Chancellor Angela Merkel. Before that, he met with French President Emmanuel Macron. Anons wondered about their intentions. The objective of the meetings with Merkel and Macron was to keep the U.S. in the Iran deal, which wasn't about nuclear disarmament, but securing a site for the covert development of nuclear weapons. On April 23rd of 2018, the day before Trump met with Macron, Q posted a long post. He said there was no provision in the Iran deal to conduct legitimate inspections of nuclear sites, and nothing would prevent Iran from developing missile technology. In addition to cash received at the time of the Iran deal, Q suggested politicians also expected to receive biannual payments of $250 billion. If true, it would provide a hefty incentive to remain in the deal. Getting down to the breadth of this, where he's going with this, regarding Israel and what we should think of them now, I found it kind of interesting, and honestly, it made sense. If Israel is the primary source of global corruption, as some claim, why do Trump and Q portray them as a valued ally in the battle to save the world? Benjamin Netanyahu has his faults, and Q has constantly complained about the problems caused by Mossad. However, Q's posts do not support the claim that Israel is the most corrupt nation of all, nor the main threat to global peace and security. So what if Benjamin Netanyahu is actually a white hat, an ally to the white hats like Xi Jinping or Vladimir Putin, working for global peace? After all, aside from fighting Hamas, they're an offshoot of the Muslim Brotherhood, which Benjamin Netanyahu has stood against for a very long time. The Muslim Brotherhood, which might be the biggest threat to the world at this point and have heavy involvement in politics, including U.S. politics, and have for quite a long time. They've been around for a very long time, and perhaps he really is a good guy, and we've misinterpreted the Israel for Last post. Maybe it's more about cleaning up Israel last for a specific reason. And maybe it's not just about problems with their government or Mossad. It may also be the fact that they're sharing technology that America gives to them and creates with China, which is especially of concern on the global playing field. And so that's just a little look at the Israel for Last post. I want to move on now with some of our top news stories for the day. Our first story up today is Russia. Russia's being painted as the terrorists of the world, making these claims that they are invading Poland and Estonia and Latvia and all these other countries, moving past the Donbass. It's been going on for, well, I want to say months, but in truth, it's been happening to Russia for a very long time. And lately, Trump has made some statements that have made people wonder if he hasn't changed sides, talking about long-range missile strikes deep into Russia and giving the Ukrainian military Tomahawk missiles and stuff like that, forcing Putin to issue a fiery response.
So once again we see the Americans and their allies presenting what they call a peace plan, but in truth this plan does not bring peace. It serves only the narrow interests of Israel and ignores the suffering of the Palestinian people. Trump, you sit in Washington and think you can dictate the future of Gaza. You call it a roadmap for peace, but it is nothing more than a tool of control. You demand Hamas disarm. You demand they surrender their only means of defense, while Israel keeps its weapons, its armies, and its bombs. That is not peace. That is capitulation. And to Mr. Netanyahu, you signed this paper in the White House. You nod in agreement, but then you say openly that Israel will resist the Palestinian state. You speak of keeping your military inside Gaza. This is hypocrisy. You claim to want peace while preparing for more war. I warn you both. Forcing such a plan will not end bloodshed. It will fuel more resistance, more chaos, and more destruction. Gaza is not your chessboard. The Palestinian people are not pawns in your political games. The world is watching. Every bomb dropped, every home destroyed, every child buried under rubble. It all writes the truth of your so-called peace. If you continue this path, you will not create stability. You will create a storm that will one day consume you. Russia will not remain silent while innocent lives are sacrificed for the ambitions of Washington and Tel Aviv. Enough of these puppet shows. Real peace can only come when the rights of the Palestinian people are respected, not ignored, not erased, not bought and sold at the White House table.
In truth, Putin's rhetoric lately has been quite peaceful, even to the point of issuing this kind-hearted apology to the family of Charlie Kirk.
This is a disgusting thing, and moreover it was done just in the open air, almost a live show, and it was totally disgusting as totally. I'd like to render my condolences to the family of Mr. Kirk and his next of kin, and certainly we sympathize with him. Moreover, he was defending those traditional values.
So maybe Vladimir Putin's not such a bad guy. And he made it clear recently that he doesn't want a war with NATO. Take a look.
Смотрю, вот я вам честно говорю, я смотрю иногда, как и что говорят там, думаю, они же не могут в это верить. Они же не могут верить в то, что говорят. что Россия собирается нападать на НАТО. Но в это поверить невозможно, а своих людей убеждают. Значит, это что за люди? Они либо очень некомпетентные, если действительно верят, потому что поверить в эту чушь невозможно, или просто непорядочные, потому что они сами в это не верят, а своих граждан в этом пытаются убедить. Ну а какие еще варианты?
And just in case you were wondering if this conflict between President Trump and Russia is actually real, the special envoy of the president of Russia, Kirill Dmitriev, decided he would set it all straight, and as if his other posts lately haven't pointed it out clear enough, the one that he put out today was pretty straightforward. What if China, Russia, and others are coordinating with POTUS to eliminate the New World Order? Who controls North Korea? Who really controls North Korea? And so that was a post that he put out today, and I think that pretty much says it all. Vladimir Putin is closely watching Europe's militarization. That sort of goes along with what happened the other day with the oil tanker that was stopped in French waters. A French court is to try the Chinese captain, surprisingly, the captain was Chinese, of the oil tanker from Russia's Shadow Fleet early next year after it was intercepted off the French coast, according to prosecutors. So let's listen to that story.
Vladimir Putin's sinister Shadow Fleet is stirring chaos in NATO waters. His army of unregulated vessels, also known as ghost ships, are accused of helping Russia launch drones into NATO airspace. But their main purpose is to avoid Western sanctions by being incredibly difficult to trace. Shadow Fleet ships have opaque ownership structures and sail without proper regulation in order to circumvent European rules and blindside authorities. They employ a wide range of underhanded tactics to get the better of Western allies. Ship-to-ship transfers take place at sea, moving goods from one boat to another while avoiding the scrutiny of naval officials at ports. Falsification is also rife, with ghost ships frequently lying about identification numbers and making up location data. Displaying flags from countries with lower oversight is also a common strategy to throw off authorities, while some ships have even been accused of cutting sea cables. European allies have blamed the fleet, which is believed to contain nearly 1,000 vessels, for aiding Putin's wide-reaching campaign of disruption. The ships reportedly account for nearly 20% of all active oil tankers in the world and deliver millions of barrels of Russian oil per day. Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk announced on Thursday that another Russian naval provocation had taken place near the port of Szczecin. Meanwhile, in Germany earlier this month, authorities stormed and detained cargo vessel Scanlark on suspicion of launching another Russian spy drone. On Wednesday, the Boracay ship was stormed by French officials for allegedly being involved in several airport shutdowns across Denmark and Norway. Although Western allies have pointed the finger at Russia, the full circumstances of the drone sightings are still being investigated.
Moving on from Russia, we turn once again to Greta Thunberg and her flotilla. Her flotilla has once again been intercepted by Israel, and basically Greta's been removed from her role as the leader of the gang, you could say. Climate activist Greta Thunberg has been removed from the steering committee of the Global Samud Flotilla due to ongoing disputes. This decision has sparked pushback from participants who reportedly feel the group is focusing too much on internal issues. Greta says, "We all have a role. Mine will not be on the board, but as an organizer and participant. I very much believe in the goal of this humanitarian mission, as well as the power and symbolism in the mobilization we see worldwide for a free Palestine." She might be right about that last part, but as for her making a difference with her flotilla, it's really done nothing. She delivered no aid. She did not break up the blockade. She's managed to have to force other countries to come to her aid numerous times, and it's been a total disaster. So that being said, let's take a look at her current round of problems.
7:07 and new this morning, an aid flotilla with several high-profile people on board is now being detained by Israel.
Now, also happening overnight, activists on board a flotilla of vessels bringing aid to Gaza were intercepted by the Israeli Navy. Among those on board are activist Greta Thunberg, Nelson Mandela's grandson, a former mayor of Barcelona, and several other European lawmakers. Earlier in the week, the IDF warned the boats they were approaching in active combat zone. The flotilla responded on X, saying the vessels were illegally intercepted. The Israeli government claims it will transfer the aid and called the vessels, quote, a provocation. Now, the interception of the flotilla has sparked protests across the globe, with large demonstrations seen overnight in New York, Paris, and Athens, Greece.
2 people and a suspect are dead in Manchester after an attack on a synagogue just celebrating Yom Kippur. We take a look at that now.
All right, but we're going to begin with that breaking news out of the UK, where British police say 2 people are dead and 3 others are in serious condition after an attack near a synagogue. This happened in Manchester, England. So for more on this, I want to bring in CBS News foreign correspondent Ramy Inocencio, who's joining us now from London. So Ramy, bring us up to speed on what happened and what the latest is at this hour.
Yes, Vlad, in just this past hour, Manchester police confirmed that the suspect in question has died after being shot by officers about 6 hours ago. Now, he had been presumed dead, but there was this kind of overhanging security concern that suspicious items, that's what police called them, on him might have actually been explosive devices. A bomb disposal unit had been called in, and roughly an hour and a half ago, there was a loud, controlled boom that was heard on the scene. The number of dead victims has not changed. That does still stand at 2. 3 others are in serious condition. And this started with an emergency call this morning to police about a car ramming. This was just after 9:30 a.m. local time. That escalated into reports of a stabbing. One social video we've seen showed 2 police officers aiming their guns at a man on the ground. One of those officers yelled to people around, get away, he's got a bomb. That video also shows another man crumpled on the ground. He is not moving, apparently a victim. He's in a pool of blood, and he's wearing a kippah, which many observant Jewish men wear. The police gave that suspect warnings to drop his knife, but then they did open fire. And as you noted at the top, Vlad, this is happening on Judaism's holiest day of the year, Yom Kippur. There was actually a service happening at that Orthodox synagogue. This day is the Day of Atonement, where Jews seek forgiveness and try to do a restart for the year ahead.
Up next, we're going to look at what Pete Hegseth's got going on and the leaks within the Pentagon that are causing turmoil, and what he's going to have to do to plug those leaks, including some pretty strict non-disclosure agreements and even polygraphs for his agents. Let's take a look at this.
In an extraordinary move, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth is right now working to impose sweeping new rules on America's top generals and Pentagon officials, requiring them to submit to random lie detector tests, according to the Washington Post. It comes as senior officials are also now being forced to sign strict new non-disclosure agreements, barring release of non-public information without approval or through a defined process. CNN has reported on these non-disclosure agreements, but tonight the Post is learning new information that the Pentagon is now considering a much more aggressive approach. National security lawyer Mark Zaid, who represents several Trump administration whistleblowers, including one at the Pentagon, sounding the alarm, telling the Post, quote, this seems to be far more directed at ensuring loyalty to the DOD, the former Department of Defense, and the Trump administration leadership rather than countering any foreign espionage.
And another story, the world is in awe at Melania Trump's new futuristic Star Trek-like video of her AI body double. I personally thought it was pretty cool. I think everybody thinks it's cool. They're just in awe at how she's getting into the comms, and I think it's awesome personally. In other news with Venezuela, Trump tells Congress and his administration that the U.S. is now involved in an armed conflict with the drug cartels.
Well, we have more now on that breaking news out of Washington as President Trump has declared drug cartels are unlawful combatants, saying the U.S. is now involved in an armed conflict. This designation comes after recent military strikes on boats in the Caribbean.
Yeah, hey there, Nicole. And we know that our colleague Joe Khalil there on Capitol Hill just got his hands on a copy of this memo that was given to members of Congress by top Pentagon officials that says the president is now determining the U.S. is in a war with the drug cartels. This was something Congress was told just yesterday and that we are just learning about in the last few moments. This was something that was shared to members of Congress. This has raised concerns from members of Congress over the last several weeks as the U.S. has been engaging in strikes on these alleged drug smuggling boats in the Caribbean. You see video of that was posted on the president's True Social account. The president is declaring drug cartels, quote, unlawful combatants, and that the U.S. is now in a non-international armed conflict. Democrats have been pressing the president to go to Congress to seek war powers authority for such operations. There was also a closed-door classified briefing on the recent strikes that raised some concerns from senators on both sides of the aisle about the legal framework being pursued and the role of Congress in all of this. Now, the White House did not immediately respond when we asked them about this. Now, we are also in touch with those at the Pentagon on this, but certainly an escalation as the president has been focusing on specifically alleged drug cartels in the Caribbean and hasn't ruled out potential strikes on Venezuela, drug cartels there in Venezuela as well.
In another turn of events, Candace Owens continues her investigation into Charlie Kirk's assassination, revealing that the FBI agent in charge regionally, the lead surgeon for the hospital Charlie was taken to, the judge for Tyler Robinson's murder trial, and the coroner were all new hires to their respective roles. She also stated she confirmed that an autopsy on Charlie's body did in fact happen, but due to Utah law, is unlikely to be made public.
Some other things that are of interest. Okay, yesterday we mentioned that apparently it was kind of everybody's first day on the job, right? 9/10 was everybody's first day on the job, meaning that there were a lot of these recent and brand new hires in Utah that would all kind of come across and have to deal with this case. Kash Patel, I told you, cleaned house at the state borough. He then installs a person that has a long tenure in D.C., Robert Bowles. His first case is Charlie Kirk's assassination. Why would he want to uproot and move his family to Utah after having roots in Virginia for so long? I don't know, but that's the circumstance. Also, I told you there was a new CEO and therefore a new lead surgeon, Andrew Zenger, over at the hospital, the regional hospital that Charlie was taken to, although that was not the nearest hospital from the university, and it also ranked extremely low in terms of the most best equipped hospital, if you will, to deal with the sort of trauma that Charlie was suffering from, a neck wound, obviously. So it's very strange. I think it would be interesting to learn whether or not that new CEO and surgeon worked on Charlie. That's something that I would like to find out. If you know that information, please send it to us at tips@CandaceOwens.com. Okay. That's not it, though. There were also some other new people, and I forgot to mention the judge that is in the case, that is overseeing the case against Tyler Robinson, is Judge Tony F. Graff Jr. He was recently appointed to the 4th District Court in May of 2025 by Governor Spencer Cox. I was also informed that the coroner in this case was also brand spanking new. That name has not yet been released. I am told that person is new. Okay. And I have also learned, I've been told that Charlie did indeed have an autopsy. I wanted to let you guys know that because I saw a lot of rumors that were circulating that he did not have an autopsy. That has been confirmed. An autopsy did take place. By the way, you should know that in the state of Utah, in case you, like me, are maybe holding your breath that we're going to see that report, those reports are actually kept private, so there isn't going to be some big release outside of what maybe the immediate family members wishing for that and saying, I feel like something's wrong and I would now like to release the autopsy report. That's the only way that we are going to be able to see it. That's at least what I've learned.
Planned Parenthood clinics in Wisconsin, Maine, and other states have all suspended abortions after President Trump blocked their access to Medicaid funding.
Planned Parenthood here in Wisconsin will no longer be taking appointments for abortions starting today, Wednesday, October 1st. Last week, Planned Parenthood announced this change. It comes after a federal appeals court judge ruled to allow part of President Donald Trump's spending and tax bill to take effect. This means that any organization in Wisconsin that's providing abortion care will have its Medicaid funding cut for now. Planned Parenthood is one of Wisconsin's largest abortion care providers in the state. Planned Parenthood says it's working through the courts to resume services as soon as possible. There are 2 clinics still providing abortion care in the Milwaukee area. One is Affiliated Medical Services in the 3rd Ward. The other is Care for All, just west of Milwaukee.
Illinois abortion providers will speak about the decision by Planned Parenthood Wisconsin to pause abortion services starting next week on October 1st. The Wisconsin organization says the pause comes with concerns about a federal law. Now, that legislation blocks Planned Parenthood from accepting Medicaid dollars for any reproductive services. Nearly half of Planned Parenthood's patients rely on Medicaid. Here in Illinois, providers are worried the move will bring an influx of patients to this state. They'll speak in the West Loop this morning to share how they plan to meet that potential need.
While we're on the topic of Medicaid, Medicare, Democrats still want to say that what they're doing with this shutdown has nothing to do with giving health care to illegals, but I hate to break it to them. They're 100% wrong on this, and they really proved their case as soon as they opened their mouth.
CBS News immigration and politics reporter Camila Montoya Galvez joins us now to fact check some of the claims you may be hearing about this over health care and immigrants in the U.S. Illegally during the shutdown debate. Camila, good morning.
Good morning.
I want to set the table here for our viewers because Republicans say Democrats are trying to hand out health care to people in the U.S. illegally. Let's just quickly listen to Arizona's Democratic Senator, that's Ruben Gallego, pushing back on that claim last night.
I don't know what the they're talking about. To be honest, I apologize for swearing. If there's a small population of people that they somehow think are undeserving of some of these tax credits, then come and talk to us. But right now, they're focusing on something that is not real, that doesn't exist, that none of us are actually demanding.
So it's causing senators to need to be bleeped. What's the reality here?
Sure, Earl. So before the One Big Beautiful Bill was signed into law by President Trump this summer, several classes of immigrants who had been granted legal status in the U.S. and who were living here lawfully were eligible for Medicaid. And the big One Big Beautiful Bill excluded many of those immigrants. We're talking about refugees, people who had been granted asylum because they proved that they were fleeing persecution in their home countries, immigrants who had been granted an immigration benefit known as parole, and others who were lawfully present in the U.S., not people who were in the country illegally without any sort of legal status or protection from the government. The Democrats' funding proposal, the alternative proposal by Democrats in Congress, would restore non-citizen eligibility for Medicaid applications.
I think he just proved the Republicans' point right there. So they are getting Medicaid. He's just doing a tit for tat, whether or not they're actually illegal immigrants or whether they are citizens or something else in between. They are not legal, okay? And as for the tax credits, we wouldn't have even needed tax credits if Obama hadn't made the Affordable Care Act cover everybody. It got so expensive that to stop the rising cost of health insurance, the government literally had to put out tax credits just so people could afford it. So the Democrats are 100% wrong on this issue. Looking at some other news, Portland police arrested conservative influencer Nick Sorter as they moved in on disorder at a protest outside an Immigration and Customs Enforcement ICE facility in the Oregon City. Video footage posted to social media showed Sorter in handcuffs, surrounded by officers, and not looking too happy. But things are heating up there in Portland, and the National Guard is also getting ready to deploy.
Right now, Portland, Oregon is still bracing for the deployment of National Guard troops. President Trump declared on social media that the soldiers are already in place to, quote, restore law and order. At the same time, the Oregon Military Department claims that the deployment is being delayed while it works to prepare the 200 soldiers who have volunteered. The department also says that its main mission will be to, quote, protect federal facilities and the employees who work there. Once in Portland, the troops are expected to stay until December 16th, which would cost the federal government at least $3.8 million.
And tonight we are tracking the arrival of 200 Oregon National Guard members now training at Camp Rylea in Warrenton along the Oregon coast. We've learned the troops are prepping for several days before they will be in Portland.
In other news, tensions are rising at the University of Virginia, where an anti-fascist student says they will hold an anti-fascist tailgate party on the University of Virginia campus this Friday evening, where participants will burn American flags in response to a recent executive order by President Trump. According to a flyer advertising the event, the demonstration is scheduled from 6 to 6:30 p.m. in a university parking lot ahead of the UVA volleyball game. The flyer, which depicts an American flag on a grill, promotes hot dogs and burning flags. Turning now to Governor Newsom, he says he'll instantly cut funding at California colleges that signed Trump Pact. California Governor Newsom hit back at Trump's University Compact introduced Thursday, which says higher education institutions that agree to certain changes will receive priority in federal funding.
Tonight, California universities, including USC, are caught in the middle of a political fight. KCAL News reporter Hunter Soward started on this story before she moved to that breaking news in Westwood.
And tonight, Hunter explains that Governor Newsom is threatening to cut state funding for schools that side with President Trump.
Another political landmine, putting both private and public universities in the hot seat.
This is why they pay college presidents the big bucks. This is a very difficult decision.
The Trump administration sending a letter to 9 prestigious colleges, including USC, telling them to change course when it comes to things like deciding college admissions based on gender and race, banning transgender women from competing in sports, allowing for a free exchange of conservative ideas, and limiting the number of international students on campus. The president says if schools sign his compact, they'll get favorable treatment when it comes to federal funding. Conditions also include not raising tuition on students.
Taking a look now at some other things. I found this story today saying a federal judge has approved a plan to release 45,000 gallons of radioactive water into the Hudson River. Let's take a look at that now and see what we can find out.
A U.S. federal judge has cleared the way for Holtec International to release 45,000 gallons of treated radioactive water from the closed Indian Point nuclear power plant into the Hudson River, ruling that New York's 2023 Save the Hudson law banning such discharges was unconstitutional. The court found that only federal agencies like the Nuclear Regulatory Commission and the EPA have the authority over nuclear wastewater releases. Holtec argues the practice is safe, tightly regulated, and a long standard at nuclear facilities, while critics warn it threatens decades of environmental recovery in the Hudson, a source of drinking water for over 100,000 people. Local officials condemned the decision, saying it risks undoing progress that has restored wildlife and water quality to the river, the Daily Mail has reported. Holtec says the discharges will be gradual, monitored, and far below federal safety limits.
The South African ambassador to France was found dead at the base of the Paris Hyatt Regency Hotel in a suspected suicide, falling 22 floors to his death. His wife had tried to get a hold of him. She knew something was wrong.
A police investigation is underway after the South African ambassador to France was found dead in Paris. 58-year-old Nati Matetwa had reserved a room on the 22nd floor of a building whose secured window had been forced open. This according to the office of the Paris prosecutor. His dead body was discovered in the Port-Maillot district of the French capital. France 24 correspondent Tom Canetti has this reaction from South Africa.
French police began looking for the ambassador on Monday after his wife said that she'd received a worrying message from him. His phone was last located at 3 p.m. on Monday afternoon near the Bois de Boulogne in western Paris, and the French police then sent a canine unit looking for him. The public prosecutor's office said that his body was found on Tuesday after he had fallen 22 stories from the Hyatt Hotel at Port-Maillot, not far from the Arc de Triomphe, after the secured window in the room that he had booked had been forced open. The French police are still investigating and have not confirmed the circumstances which led to his death. The South African president released a statement saying that the ambassador's life had been ended traumatically and prematurely. Mtetwa served as Minister for Police between 2009 and 2014, and he had been accused 2 weeks ago by Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi of political interference during the Madlanga Commission, the ongoing Madlanga Commission, which is investigating corruption within the South African Police Service. Later, following those accusations, he'd been called upon by the political party, the Economic Freedom Fighters, to give evidence as a potential witness following those accusations.
Tucker Carlson, in a recent interview, talked about if Israel was our greatest ally, why in the world are they transferring military technology to China? It sort of ties into what I was talking about earlier. I wanted to show you a clip from that.
Which has gone, just to give you one more example of the humiliation, which is almost beyond belief. So Israel's our greatest ally. We should never ask anything of them. Of course, you heard Nikki Haley. You hear all of them say exactly the same thing. Protecting Israel is the most important thing. They're our only real ally. If they're our only real ally, why does Israel have a long history of transferring military technology, including American military technology, to China? To China? Most people have no idea that's true. It is true. Why is China running the port of Haifa, Israel's biggest port? Really, if they're such a close ally? And of course, the answer is because from Israel's perspective, we're not a close ally. We're a country that has been willing to help them. But when you only have 9 million people and a limited defense budget, you take help where you can get it. So the loyalty is not requited. It's one way.
MJ Truth shared an interesting video today from a whistleblower who claims that illegal aliens are fast-tracked for healthcare and disability, which ties into another story that we looked at earlier. So let's check this out.
They wanted us to try to identify them in such a way that they would qualify for long-term Social Security disability. Now,
what?
Yeah. And long-term Social Security disability is for life.
Yeah.
So if they get identified and qualify for long-term Social Security disability, they are as good as set up for life for medical treatment.
That doesn't sound like a refugee to me. Just being honest.
Yeah.
That sounds like somebody who's planning on staying here.
Yeah,
a refugee
right.
stays until the problem's over and then goes home.
Well, that's right. And so they instructed us to try to identify, to try to get the client, because once they arrive here, they're now called clients. They're called clients. Yeah.
Okay.
Because clients pay.
Sure.
See?
Sure. I'm starting to see where this is leading here.
So they told us that we needed to talk to the client and ask them if they'd had any headaches, recurring headaches, or any lower back problems. Excuse me, anything that would qualify them for Social Security long-term disability.
People have been talking about the complete and utter failure by Secret Service as an NYPD cop was allowed to sneak into the Ryder Cup where President Trump was. The guy was in full tactical gear with a gun and claimed he was on Trump's security team. He's now facing administrative charges for theft of services. And, well, he may have gotten away with that ruse. He If he had not dropped his gun magazine in the grass in front of real security, according to law enforcement sources, he probably wouldn't have got caught. So there's that. Going back to Tucker Carlson for a minute, when he did the interview with Jeffrey Sachs, he talked about how he theorized that the Israeli government may be planning to demolish the Al-Aqsa Mosque on Jerusalem's Temple Mount, a site revered in Jewish tradition as a prophesied location for rebuilding the Third Temple. Netflix has lost $15.1 billion in market value since users began canceling subscriptions in protest of its woke content. That's what they get for sharing cartoons meant for children talking about transgenders. That was really irritating. 2 days before Charlie Kirk was assassinated, billionaire donor Robert Shillman informed Turning Point USA he was withdrawing $2 million in pledges because Charlie Kirk was giving Tucker Carlson a platform. More Charlie Kirk news never seems to go away. Elon Musk exposed California NGOs are receiving nearly $1 million per homeless person per year. The city of LA data shows Democrats spending $900,000 per homeless person per year. People getting filthy rich is why the problem will never be solved. It's a racket. And moving on here, 2 Delta planes collided while taxiing at New York's LaGuardia Airport, causing the wing of one aircraft to hit the nose of another and detach. We take a look at that story.
Let's stay right there at the airport. And this is a story that hits very close to home here at CBS. We begin with a scary situation at New York's LaGuardia Airport last night. 2 regional jets crashed into each other on the tarmac, injuring a flight attendant. A CBS News producer who I'm very close with was on board one of those flights, and he took this video showing how the wing of one aircraft hit the front of the other plane.
You've seen all the memes lately about Chuck Schumer, and the White House decided to play Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer meme that Trump had posted on loop in the briefing room. I thought that was hilarious. Vincent Kennedy shared a post about an email between Hillary Clinton and John Podesta and what it confirms. Hillary Clinton's time as Secretary of Bribery, as he puts it, the Obama State Department approved massive arms sales, particularly to Saudi Arabia. The result was the rise of terrorist groups like ISIS, funded largely by the very people who were bribing the Clinton Foundation. In short, the death, the beheadings, and the destruction were in large part due to Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton. $80 billion arms deals to terrorists. Hard to believe. Or is it? Not so much. And we might have got a comm here from Trump. October marks National Pizza Month, and there's no better place to celebrate than Trump Pizza at Trump Tower. Whether you're stopping by for a quick slice in the heart of Midtown or sitting down to enjoy the full experience, every bite delivers that classic New York flavor with a signature Trump touch. And at the bottom it says, I wonder if this is a comm to let us know all P word are going down this month. It's an interesting comm right there. This post from the U.S. Homeland Security, the senior leaders meeting held by the War Department, including President Trump, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, and nearly 800 senior military leaders, generals, admirals, and their top enlisted advisors, had an open televised portion and afterwards a closed-door top-secret meeting with senior military leaders. The topic has not been disclosed. That's pretty important, actually. People were kind of irritated that President Trump's meeting with Russell Voigt of Project 2025, the Heritage Foundation, to determine which of the many Democrat agencies, most of which are a political scam, Trump says, should be cut, and whether or not those cuts will be temporary or permanent. So let's look a little deeper into this story.
Welcome back. This morning, President Trump is saying he's moving forward with more cuts to federal agencies as the government shutdown moves into day 2. And helping him make those decisions, Russell Vought, the head of the Office of Management and Budget. And as the president has mentioned, he's a key author of Project 2025, the plans that got so much attention during the campaign. Vought has already announced several of the cuts since the shutdown began and has emerged as a key member of the president's team.
You all know Russell Vought. He's become very popular recently because he can trim the budget to a level that you couldn't do any other way. So they're taking a risk by having a shutdown.
All right, folks, a few more stories to wrap everything up with. This is an important post from, I don't know, but it's about Howard Lutnick. I assume way back when Epstein traded those blackmail videos in exchange for him getting that 18-month sentence. It's pretty important, don't you think? Do you wonder if those videos even still exist, or if he somehow was able to trade all that for his lighter sentence? I don't know if that would even be possible necessarily. And then this one about Starlink. Starlink is now active for one of the largest cell phone carriers in the U.S. for text and a handful of apps for use off the grid, including X, which is very important. You should know if things go down and you have Starlink, you can use X. T-Mobile is now carrying Starlink satellite service. It works with a handful of apps, so that's pretty important. This one, did we all get the idea of central casting wrong? It says, when President Trump talks about central casting, he's referencing the counterinsurgency guide from QPost 4353 because we're in an irregular warfare war. Chapter 3, entitled Actors, to win against an insurgency, you must deploy counterinsurgency ops everywhere on both sides. So when President Trump says a person is central casting, that person is part of the Trump counterinsurgency plan, not just some actor, right? QPost 4353, irregular warfare, insurgency. Insurgency is the organized use of subversion and violence to seize, nullify, or challenge political control of a region. As such, it is primarily a political struggle in which both sides use armed force to create space for their political, economic, and influence activities to be effective, in full control. And with that, a lot of people are in fear of a blackout. This is an interesting post. In 1582, 10 Days of Darkness, from October 5th to the 14th, were erased from time with the introduction of the Gregorian calendar. From October 5th of 1582 to yesterday's date, that's exactly 161,800 days, which is the golden ratio. People thought that was pretty wild, I guess, and that is pretty fascinating, actually. Moving forward, the Charlie Kirk Memorial Highway has been approved by the Lake County Commission. The road is a section of Wellness Way from US 27 to the Orange County line. Lake County's dedication of the highway represents the first county to memorialize Charlie Kirk in the aftermath of his assassination. God bless you, sir. President Trump is considering a bailout of at least $10 billion for U.S. farmers. We take a look at that.
Breaking news now coming to us from the White House. Eamon Javers joins us with more on this. Eamon, what do you have?
Contessa, we've got new reporting here from the Wall Street Journal just within the past couple of moments, putting a number now on that aid to farmers that President Trump has been talking about all week to basically bail out the farm sector from some of the damage that they've had from the retaliatory actions from China as part of the trade war. The Wall Street Journal reporting that the total package the Trump administration is considering now is between $10 and $14 billion in aid to American farmers. They caution that that is still maybe a bit of a moving target. Discussions are ongoing, and they're sourcing here people familiar with the conversations. We saw Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent on CNBC this morning saying a bailout package for farmers could come as early as Tuesday. Not clear whether that is a set in stone date for that bailout package, but clearly the details now taking shape behind closed doors, and the Wall Street Journal reporting that total dollar value here could be between 10 and 14 billion. Remember, some of those farmers have been really hard hit here because the Chinese have not ordered any soybeans at all from American farmers this year. That would normally be billions of dollars a year in transactions that those farmers are going without so far. So pretty dramatic impact on that sector.
And the Trump administration is cutting nearly $8 billion in clean energy projects in states that backed Kamala Harris. And in Ethiopia, at least 30 people are dead and more than 200 badly injured after church scaffolding collapsed during an early morning worship. And the FDA has a new abortion pill.
Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is asking the Food and Drug Administration to review the drug mifepristone. The pill is used in nearly 2/3 of abortions across the U.S. The drug was approved by the FDA in 2000 for medical termination of pregnancy. So why is it being reviewed now? Here's what we know now.
RFK Jr. has launched a FDA review of the abortion pill as a response to a letter from 22 Republican attorney generals who requested the FDA review. In a letter in response to them, Kennedy and the FDA Commissioner Marty McRae said that the agency would conduct its own review of the evidence, including real-world outcomes relating to the safety of the drug. A key study that was cited by the Republicans who prompted this review, as well as Kennedy and McRae, was conducted by the Ethics and Public Policy Center, which is a conservative think tank whose president formerly worked at the Heritage Foundation, which published Project 2025. The study was not peer-reviewed or published in a scientific journal. It's published on the center's website, and it reports that almost 11% of women experienced a serious adverse event due to the abortion pill, which is much higher than the 0.5% rate found in clinical studies and listed by the FDA on the medication label.
What does the FDA currently say about the safety of mifepristone?
Since the drug was approved by the FDA in 2000, there's only been 5 deaths for every 1 million people who take the drug, according to the FDA. So that means that the death rate is 0.0005%, and the safety is on par with those of common over-the-counter pain relievers such as ibuprofen, according to studies.
Well, Patriots, that is a look at our stories for now. I hope you enjoyed that look at the news, and I apologize I wasn't able to be on live tonight. I will be back as usual tomorrow, so I hope to see you then. I suppose for some of you it'll be tonight, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. God bless you and much love, Patriots, and thank you for watching Patriot News Broadcasting.
The Democrats shut down the government because President Trump and the Republicans will not force American taxpayers to pay for free health care for illegal aliens. America is $37 trillion in debt. We cannot afford to provide taxpayer-funded free health care to illegals who broke the law to enter our country.
Raise your hand if your government plan would provide coverage for undocumented immigrants.
Zelensky is waging an energy war against Russia. And let me make it clear, we are not afraid of you, the United States, or anyone else. Ukraine's attacks on our energy infrastructure are not just a provocation. They are a direct assault on global stability. These strikes are pushing energy markets to the brink, destabilizing prices, and threatening the economic balance worldwide. Since the beginning of this conflict, Europe has suffered severely, with gas prices skyrocketing by over 150%. And the ripple effect is felt across the globe. Ukraine, under your influence, is targeting critical pipelines, sabotaging the flow of energy to millions. You think this will break us? You are mistaken. We will respond, and we will secure our resources.
Just going back to the sombrero, you said that the president was joking, but Hakeem Jeffries says that these memes were racist. What's your response to that? And just if I may briefly go off topic, Secretary Hegseth yesterday made an edict about no more beardos in the military. Just wondered what.
Sorry, what did he say?
Beardos.
Beards.
Sorry, it's my accent. Just wondered your response to that.
I didn't see that particular comment. I thought Pete gave a hell of a speech, and a speech that really is just oriented around returning the American military to the very high standards that it has had for virtually its entire history until Joe Biden came along and decided to lower standards. I think it was bad for our military, and it was bad for our troops. When I was a young United States Marine, I did not have a beard. I am now the vice president, so I get to do what I want to do. But I think Pete's trying to re-implement high standards, and that's a very good thing. On the sombrero thing, I mean, Hakeem Jeffries said it was racist, and I know that he said that, and I honestly don't even know what that means. Like, is he a Mexican American that is offended by having a sombrero meme? I mean, I saw one of the major TV stations put the meme up and then say, this is AI generated. And he had like the curly animated mustache too. It's like, do you really not realize the American people recognize that he did not actually come to the White House wearing a sombrero and a black curly animation mustache? Like, give the country a little bit of credit. We're all trying to do a very important job for the American people. The President of the United States likes to have a little bit of fun when he's doing it, and I think that's okay.
Thank you for calling the White House comment line.
Hello, America. This is White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt. Democrats in Congress have shut down the federal government because they care more about funding health care for illegal immigrants than they care about serving you, the American people. Until Democrats vote for the clean, Republican-backed continuing resolution to reopen the government, the White House is unable to answer your call or respond to your questions. We look forward to hearing from you again very soon. And in the meantime, please know President Trump will never stop fighting for you. Thank you, and God bless you.